So today we're back on Elsa, the Volvo 740, and as most of you know, I've got a warm start issue, an intermittent warm start issue on this car that's been going on for a long time. I've tried a bunch of stuff to fix it, still haven't found the problem. I tried a lot of your suggestions, because a lot of you were reaching out and saying it's the crankshaft position sensor, which this car doesn't technically have one. It's a Hall sensor. So the LH 2.4 cars had a crankshaft position sensor that goes into the bell housing. The LH 2.2 have a Hall sensor. So on the 240, it's on the distributor that's here. There's a 3-pin plug on the distributor, and on this car it's the same 3-pin plug, but it's on the bottom of this distributor. Yeah, it's not technically called a crankshaft position sensor, but it has the same kind of job anyway. But I do get a consistent spark, and I have double checked this. The spark is good, it's in time, it's strong, it's good. The tachometer bounces as it should. So that would say that the crank sensor, or Hall sensor in this case, is actually okay. One thing I did notice when I was in and around the engine bay is I would smell raw fuel vapour. This is when it's cold, when it's off, and when I was underneath the car and I just would get the odd whiff of fuel. And then yesterday, for the first time ever, actually after driving it, got home, could smell fuel around the car and more around the engine bay area, like raw fuel, even though the car runs fine. So doesn't start fine when it's warm, intermittently, but when it runs absolutely fine. It's not rich or anything like that. This was fuel vapor coming from somewhere. And I actually also noticed a while ago when it was parked in the garage, when I opened the door, I'd get quite a strong fuel smell. So I replaced the fuel cap with a known good one, and it's not made any difference to that. So I want to dig a little bit further into it today, because yeah, it's a little bit disconcerting, especially when you've got a newborn and you can just smell raw fuel around your car. So let's have a closer look. Yeah, so if I take off any of the piping on the inlet manifold, even this, I can smell inside there. As soon as I took the air filter off, I can smell fuel. I've took the pipe off there. Thing is, with the charcoal canister pipes, ironically, that go to here, I can't smell that much fuel in them, but I can smell fuel in everything else, which is weird. So I need to figure out what's going on here. It's a bit of a mess down in here. I can...
Wafting.
Yeah, I can smell raw fuel, unmistakably. So all it is down here is just a Jubilee clip, a really big one. And this sucker's free. And the charcoal canister just fell in half. That doesn't smell of anything apart from the WD-40 that I just... I found it. I think I found the issue. I hope so. One blocked vent tube. I don't know if you can see, but it's full of stuff in there. So you get the fuel tank at the back. Once upon a time, it just would have vented to atmosphere on older cars. There'd just be a vent at the top of the fuel tank just to let off that pressure. Like same with a jerry can for your lawnmower in your shed. You know, the jerry can bulges, doesn't it, with the temperature change. When it gets warm, it starts to bulge out. You've got to open the cap every now and then to let the pressure off. Same thing happens with the fuel tank. You get pressure in there, it builds up, and it needs to be able to vent off. And like I say, once upon a time it would have vented to atmosphere. Then they developed this EVAP system stuff, which quite simply, instead of venting to atmosphere, you know, the fuel tank's sealed up, the vent tube that comes off the fuel tank comes to the front of the car, or wherever your charcoal canister is. So the charcoal element, it absorbs a lot of that fuel, and then this purge valve, I think it's called, this valve on the top, it regulates then the fuel that goes to the engine. Any excess gets vented out through the bottom of the canister, or not in this case. that should probably go to something, but it doesn't. These two lines go to the manifold, so perhaps it's not even connected to the fuel tank anyway. Okay, so this absolutely stinks of fuel, and that was not connected to anything. These two are connected to the fuel canister. Keep saying fuel canister. Charcoal canister. This was just hanging out there. So perhaps this other one here. Yeah, that was probably like that, wasn't it? I'm gonna say once upon a time, and it's been cut, so now it's just venting out. So that's how fuel smell in the engine bay whilst it's running. That will obviously go to the tank. So yeah, it would be quite nice to reconnect this system. I don't know why it's been cut in the first place. Maybe there's a reason for it. Not that we need more fuel for a startup, because that's exactly what it will do. It will put that fuel vapor into startup, so we don't need any more. We've got too much is our problem. So if anything, reconnecting it might make it worse. Rochester products, made in the USA. It's quite amazing how many made in the USA parts are on this 740. There's loads actually. Look at that. That's a lot of stuff in it. Looks like pork scratching. That stinks. It smells really weird. What is that? I don't know if I should breathe it in. It's kind of like mouldy stuff. Oh, it's not nice on the nostrils. I guess it's the... What the hell? It's a ball of something. Cut it open and, well, I've cut it in half, whatever it was, but it's dead anyway. But it was like some kind of larvae. That's the two holes of the case that it was in. Don't know what that is, and there's another one as well. What is that then, if you guys know? There's a fresh one. There's like a, yeah, like a sack with something inside it. I don't know, it smells weird as well. Maybe it's aliens. So, oh, is there still some more stuff in there? There is. Yeah, it's full of it. Something has just laid like a load of sacks in this tube. Yeah, there's loads of them, look. So what I will do, whilst I've got it out, I'll probably take the washer bottle out as well. Oh, there's a clip there for the... There's an airbox clip. I don't think I'm missing one, but maybe it was missing one at one stage and it was replaced. Anyway, yeah, we'll take that out. Get the vacuum out, get all that crud out of there, probably give it a clean as well. And yeah, then we can get everything back together. I'll do any rust treatment as well that needs to be done. Yeah, I'm glad I did this. We got rust starting in here. So, yeah, and in the corner there. Don't know why I didn't do it sooner. Bit stupid, but there we go. So yeah, time to hoover all this. We got some bonus nuts and bolts in there as well. I vaguely recall doing some jobs and dropping some nuts and bolts and then going down there and thinking, well, I'll never get that back because when I'm going to take the washer bottle out. So we finally got them back. So I don't know what they belong to, but yeah, there's quite a bit in there, isn't there? So we'll have a good clean up. One of the drain holes was blocked conveniently by a paper disc as well, so that didn't help anything. So now I'm going to hit it with a good old dasty. Look how much rust bubbling it's exposed. It's everywhere. So I'm going to strip off all of that, basically, anything that's loose. I'm going to use my favourite product of all time, fluid film. My favourite thing that comes in a can anyway. So I do just need to test that both of these washer pumps are working, because I've got a feeling that they're not. The front one is, I know that of course, but I think the rear one, I'm not sure which one the rear one is, I think it's that one, I don't think it's working. I haven't even tried it on the car for a long time, but when I unplugged this, no water came out, so I think it might be blocked or something. When you do test to see if these are working, don't stand like directly in front of the firing line. It's stuck, isn't it? So just kind of sucked and blew on the ports here, the in and out. You can see there's a load of dirt coming out of that. Good old original video equipment. So there we go, looks a bit messy, a little bit dirty as well because my brush wasn't the cleanest, but there we go, that's the fluid film and then the permafilm over the top of it, so that should set to a nice sort of elasticy finish, and it will stop that rust from spreading or getting any worse for a good amount of time. So let's get it built back up. Little bit of a faff to get it all back together. Of course, putting the wrong thing on first, having to take it back off again, put the other thing on, juggle some stuff, get a bit stressed, get a bit frustrated, but got there in the end. No breakages, which is always a good thing, isn't it? I don't think I had the canister in the right position. I think maybe the tube should go directly off to the side and then kind of around the airbox. I've kind of got them sort of stuffed in against the airbox and then underneath it a bit. Ring and ring and ring and ring all day long. Very interesting, Mr. Bond. Yeah, I didn't think it was the crank sensor because I was getting a really good spark, consistent spark, and I was definitely getting too much fuel, but that's not correct. That bouncing doesn't always do that. Sometimes it's totally fine, but there is obviously an issue there because the needle shouldn't jump like that. So whether it's our main issue or not, doesn't matter. It still needs to be addressed, doesn't it? Yeah, look.